What's up, guys? Philip at Trade Genius. We got a loaded outlook this week on Bitcoin, and we'll be taking a look at the quarterly chart, the monthly chart, weekly, and daily. We'll be looking at the crypto fear and greed indicator, our volatility indicator. So we got a lot of information to go over and give us an idea of where we're at in this current cycle with the Bitcoin and altcoin price action. All right, guys, let's take a look at these charts.
Trade Genius.
All right, guys, so let's look at the quarterly outlook. This is an interesting one because when the last quarterly candle we had pulled back, it was kind of interesting to see what levels would hold. And then we basically made, another doji type candle. Now, what's interesting is that the last couple times we had back-to-back doji type candles where you have a real skinny body, so indicating a compressing range, which we've been looking at for the last few weeks. Those were bottoms of the pullbacks, and so there we have it there. So that's pretty interesting. I think that according to our model, the 2014 compressed model, the bottom is in, which we'll also take a look at that. But pretty glaring example there of the previous two cycles where we had a couple months of compression and then we resumed growth again into the fourth quarter. And so that's a pretty bullish setup there. So interesting look there. Let's take a look at the monthly chart. Okay, so on the monthly chart, what I like to do on the monthly is just look at levels. Again, with the kind of the compressing cycle that we've seen, a big up month on this correction has been followed by a couple down months, and that's what we've gotten here. So again, you're leaning toward having a green month. That being said, the monthly levels that I'm looking at, we had a couple monthly closes here. Monthly closes, I put a lot of weight in. So that's going to give you like 6,400. And then this trend line here, which will show up on other smaller charts, is really, again, we're looking for a series of higher lows. If these lows are in, we should not see a dip below our lowest low. And so this trend line I think would freak a lot of people out if we drop back down to the 6,200 area. But in reality, that could be just like one final test and then higher. So downside again, 6,400, and then you've got your wicks down here toward that 5,900 level. But that would be 5,900 would definitely be an area to take a stab at if you got a quick move down there. It would be a lot of fear at that point, and a lot of times you get great entries on the fear, and we'll look at that fear index too. On the upside, basically the monthly levels that stand out, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be this area where we had these two closes, and so that's going to be around that 77.50 level on the upside. So that's the way the weekly is looking. Again, just looking at the weekly closes for those levels, or the monthly closes, I should say. All right, let's look at the weekly chart. All right, guys, so here's the weekly chart. The Bitfinex shorts are still elevated. They crossed up over here. And a lot of times when we get shorts that cross, we get a move up. This is a long run for the shorts to be elevated over the bulls, but we are in a period of pretty unusual, I would say, lack of volatility as far as being compressed. But a lot of times when you get like things like rounded bottoms and things like that, you're not going to get a capitulation move down, and then they'll take off from there. But on the weekly, again, looking at, this is where I like to see like the previous week. So we had a high of 67.86 and a low of 63.20. And so that would be where those levels there on the weekly is where I'd start, that's to me going to be an indication of some volatility once we start going past those levels. So we had an inside week last week where we didn't break out at all from the prior week's range. So that's the levels I'd be looking at for just a weekly action is 63.20 on the low side, 67.86.73 on the high side. All right, let's take a look at the daily chart. So daily chart, let's bag the indicators here for a second. It really, as far as what we're seeing on the trend line, and actually this trend line needs to move. Let's do that real quick. So we need to be here with that trend line. Again, we're in a descending wedge that hasn't really changed. We've been saying that every week. And so that's this pattern, the blue bars, the blue lines, that's a descending wedge in the making, and that's bullish. Then you have this interior pattern, which is more of a triangle. And again, any breach on that triangle is going to probably see some decent moves up. But if we break the trend line, then what I'm looking at is a momentum play that's going to take us up to this upper trend line. Also the 200-day moving average, which, every time we start to get near that, seems like it's like kryptonite. Once that 200-day moving average is breached, I think you're going to see a pretty decent move. And that's just been historical. You'd have to go way back, but once you get above it, there's big moves. Now this was a big spike down from the just extreme volatility of the first quarter of this year, and so those are hard because you really it didn't last very long and bounced above it, but that was just a very, what we call an overthrow. But extreme volatility will do that. So anyway, now that things are a little more sane, once you do crack above that, we'll typically get a retest of the 200-day moving average. So currently the 200-day moving average is right around this trend line and around 7,300 or so. So that's going to be probably, if it does run up there, I want to see it actually test to that level, like actually hit it, and we'd probably see a decent pullback to support, maybe to 6,800, and then another go at it. But if it does do a breakout breach and like we get a big bullish close above that, we're going to see a lot more upside, and then we can start talking about these upper levels. But we won't do that until we see that. So daily, to summarize the daily, we're just compressing the range. We could see some quick dips down to like the 6,200 area. Right now, I would characterize the last few days as just pure chop, and so but I think we're due for a pretty decent move. Let's take a look at the different models and volatility charts. So this chart in the past has indicated areas where we dip into volatility or low periods of volatility. So I kind of shaded this area where historically in the past you get down there and it precedes a decent size move. We dropped down to basically levels, and actually let's go to the daily on this guy here. But basically, once it dips down in these levels, usually we'll mark it and then we'll see a move. What's interesting here, and some things that the model told us, is that we could go into a period of fairly low volatility. So where we just, even though the volatility is extremely low and generally big moves come from that, we're kind of dwelling in that low volatility area. And so it might take a bit to see a move. Now, once you see that move, so when we look at those trend line breaks that we talked about, I think that's going to be the catalyst for a decent move. Also, too, if you want to remember, we just closed the CME futures expiration, so we won't have another one until the middle of the month, and that'll be the CBOE. But notice that sometimes it happens 3 to 4 days later, we get some kind of move. So it would indicate to me that we're really close to getting a move in some direction. Again, it's choppy, so I'm gonna, at this point, you guys, you want to let the move dictate the next week or two of action once you break out of this coiling action that we have here. But we're due. In fact, since the CME expirations have come out, we've never had a period where we just went sideways. So be on your toes here, okay? As far as the model goes, let's dial that up. So the model, I kind of just drew a line to kind of more or less dictate what price action would be based on our compressed model of 2014, 2015. And so looking for some kind of pivot to the upside coming around October 7th or October 8th, somewhere in there, give or take a day or two. And so that would be what the model's indicating. As far as getting long or short here, I think it's better to either, again, take action on the sides of support and resistance that we've seen on the daily chart, or just step aside and wait for a move to happen and then buy that first pullback, either long or short. So anyway, I wish it could be more definitive, other than it's just choppy here and it's best to wait for a move this week, and we can do an update later in the week. But again, I kind of side with the model until I see otherwise, and so we should see again a bounce toward in about a week, and then we just start kind of grinding higher, and then as we get into November, a decent move to the upside. So, and that would be pretty spot on for most of the fourth quarters that we've seen, as we covered in the weekend video. So anyway, that's it for today's video. Those are the levels I'm looking at, guys, and the price action and my take on it. And I appreciate you guys watching the video. Please hit like and subscribe. If you're interested in any of our products, head over to tradelikeagenius.com. Other than that, I will see you on tomorrow's video. Thanks again for watching, guys. Take care.
Trade Genius.